What's your favorite childhood memory? Every time I was with my cousin, we were separated at a young age due to her being fostered by my grandma and her boyfriend. But when my grandma left, she left my cousin with her awful boyfriend, and I ended up moving shortly after. I genuinely believe that my cousin had been the person I was closest to in my entire life. Like not even my own little sister or mother were as close as I was to her. I have countless good memories of me and my cousin making up songs and getting into trouble and swimming and playing outside. I miss her a lot. It's been nearly a decade though. What's something you think everyone should experience at least once in their life? Watching a sunrise from a mountain peak, it's breathtaking and puts everything into perspective. What is the most ridiculous thing you have ever seen a tourist get upset over? One of my cousins from Florida came to visit my grandma here in Canada. Apparently, he promised his daughter that she would be able to play in the snow, despite the fact that they were visiting in the middle of summer. What's the creepiest experience you've ever had? I had a neighbor who always seemed to be watching me. I'd catch him peeking through the blinds whenever I was outside. One day, he approached me while I was taking out the trash and asked me very personal questions. I started avoiding going outside at all. Men of Reddit, what was the most ridiculous reason why someone questioned your masculinity? One of my groomsmen went on a social media rant about men being less masculine nowadays and used me as an example. He said it was because I cried when my wife was walking down the aisle. What happened to the lonely kid from your high school? He became my boss. To be honest though, I befriended him in high school and he's been one of my best friends ever since. He went from no self-esteem to a team manager in the IT department we work in today. He got me a job. He is making waves, and I know people from my class would have their minds blown if they saw him today. We also play in a band together, doing monthly live shows. He turned into a classy extrovert from a total quiet, bullied nerd in high school. What's a common dating mistake you think people should avoid? Don't date for potential, date for reality. People who date for potential will be forever stuck trying to change their partner. Those who date their partners for who they are can definitely still change and help them, but have already accepted them for who they are. College Redditors. What's the social hierarchy like? It's like high school, but even more ridiculous. All the popularity contests are even more intense because everyone is transitioning to the real world where you actually are more likely to survive and succeed by putting others down. What's the worst way you've ever embarrassed yourself? I sat in a car of total stranger that was parked in front of my place, thinking that it was my cousin's car, and said, "Hey bro, you are late." When I realized that I am sitting next to a total stranger, blood rushed to my head, and I only said, "I'm sorry," and got out. I got out fast of his car and was flushed red. People around looked at me weird. The biggest thing is that the car color wasn't even similar to my cousin's, and I still don't know how I made that mistake. What's the craziest thing you witnessed at school? My middle school principal marching down the hallway in between classes, ripping pencil cases out of every girl's hands within reach, while dumping the contents onto the hallway floor in search of the black Sharpie used to write profanities in the girls' bathroom. He looked like the old version of Henry VIII, rendering the scene terrifying, yet comical. I remember trying to hold my laughter in while being absolutely terrified. Later on that summer, his kids joined my church's Bible camp, and they were the absolute sweetest children, and he was actually nice to me. What victim ended up being the bad guy after more information came out? Karen Matthews faked her daughter's kidnapping not long after Madeline McCann went missing so that she could get money. She hid her inside a bed at a friend's house and planned to collect the reward money. People actually felt sorry for her, thinking her daughter was missing, and it was a huge police investigation. Ended up in jail for kidnapping, perverting the course of justice, and false imprisonment. What's the worst excuse someone used to dump you? She invited me to go out with her and some friends. I told her up front that I was low on money until payday, so if I went, it would just be to hang out. I wouldn't be able to buy anything. At the diner, she orders a shake, and when the bill comes, she asks if I will pay for it. I reminded her I was completely broke and didn't have money in the bank. Another guy friend steps in and offers to pay for her shake and my gas. 2 days later, she dumped me for him because I didn't offer to pay the bill. What's the weirdest thing you saw in public? On my lunch break, I saw 12 police cars headed down the street. The cashier at the gas station informed me they were going to my job. finds out they were on a high-speed chase with a van that happened to get through our guarded entrance with ease. The suspects escaped on foot, and when the head guard was questioned on how a random van came through the entrance, the guard's on-duty excuse was no one saw the van. What's the most underrated movie you've watched and think it should deserve more attention? Stranger Than Fiction. Absolutely love the story concept, and probably my favorite Will Ferrell performance because it relies on delivering subtle comedy from a character that wasn't over the top and screaming at you the whole time. Not so much jokes from a comedian as an awkward guy saying things he doesn't realize are funny. Some amazing emotional moments as well. What is the scariest thing you've ever seen in your life that you can't explain? Once I woke up in the middle of the night to the sound of my bedroom door creaking open. I could see the outline of someone standing there, but when I turned on the light, there was no one there. The door was still slowly closing, as if whoever or whatever had been there was leaving. Even creepier, my Nest fire alarm had illuminated in the corridor, sensing movement, but there was nobody there. Still gives me chills thinking about it. What's the worst thing a school principal ever did to you? When I was in 3rd grade, the school bully was picking on some new kid, but the kid couldn't tell the principal who was picking on him because he was scared and also kind of dumb. The principal took the kid around our classroom wing and asked him to point out the bully. The kid felt pressured to pick someone, so he pointed at the first student he saw, sitting in the front row near the door of my classroom, which happened to be me. I got pulled out of class and reprimanded in the hallway. Then they called my parents to tell them that I was fighting and bullying smaller kids on the playground. Then they figured out that it was the same kid who bullies everyone, so they sent me home with a note saying that I was off the hook, but they'd be keeping an eye on me. Not even an apology. I had never gotten in trouble in school before or after. Those who are in successful, healthy, loyal, committed relationships, where and how did you meet your partner? I met my fiancé a little over 10 years ago at my best friend's birthday party. We were seniors in high school and afterwards did long distance during college until we graduated. We get married next year on our 11th anniversary. What's the grossest thing you found out about your ex while dating them?
That he showered but did not change his underwear for days. I found that out after I invited him to stay over for a weekend. He was making a sort of loud inventory over the phone over what to bring over. He mentioned a few t-shirts, 7 pairs of socks, and 1 pair of underwear. I thought he was joking, but he kept explaining to me how it's different for men. They can wear a pair 2 or 3 times in the winter.
What's the weirdest thing you've done to impress someone?
I once learned an entire magic trick routine just to impress my local barista. I spent days perfecting the floating finger illusion. On the day of my grand performance, I walked into the cafe with confidence, ordered my usual latte, and then proceeded to dazzle her with my magical skills. Now I'm dating someone else, lol.
What's the strangest thing you've seen a stranger do?
I was in a restaurant and a man was dining at the bar having a bowl of pasta. He casually got up, walked in front of the restaurant, and proceeded to vomit his entire meal onto the street in front of the restaurant's window and all the diners. He then simply walked back into the restaurant, seated himself back at the bar, and ordered dessert.
What's an awkward moment you look back on and laugh about now?
Was meeting a boyfriend at the time. We decided to meet just outside the metro stop. As soon as I walk out, I see him. He was standing with his back towards me. I fully sprint with the intention of jumping on his back. I grab his shoulders and jump. He grabs me. While I am on his back, I see my boyfriend a few meters away staring at me in confusion and staring to laugh. The guy I'm on and almost tackled to the ground turns his head at me, super confused. I am mortified and my face must have been purple in embarrassment. I profusely apologize while they are both laughing at my misunderstanding. Luckily, the guy was very nonchalant about it.
What's the strangest dream you've ever had?
I used to have reoccurring dreams when I lived at my old house. All of them happened in my old bedroom, and I used to wake up and feel really confused about what parts were reality and what parts were the dream. The only way I knew of telling was if I could remember switching my bedside lamp on or not. In the dreams, I would wake up in my bedroom and feel like there was a very evil, uncomfortable, suffocating presence in the room. It would paralyze me with fear, and even if I became lucid in the dream, it was very hard to leave the room. I once had a guest sleep there. I never told anyone about these dreams, so I didn't influence her. But she woke up screaming in the night, even though I don't live in that house anymore. Once in a while, I will dream about that room.
What's something you've done that you think everyone could benefit from trying?
Getting out of your comfort zone doesn't have to be a big thing. You don't have to schedule a paragliding lesson tomorrow. Could be as small as getting a new item in a cafe, instead of going with your regular order. Then work your way up. Also, say yes. The things I've learned and the experiences I've gained since I stopped making excuses and just saying yes to almost everything is immeasurable. Again, doesn't have to be a big thing. Just recently my friend invited me to a social workers conference a while ago. I said sure even though I have absolutely nothing to do with social work whatsoever. I wasn't really looking forward to it, but I learned some new things about my own country and some history about Ireland and Cyprus, including stories from some people who lived through certain events. All in all, time well spent.